Ear flap caps have recently become very popular, and with that in mind, I've designed this cap called Method Air, which is named after a snowboarding term. There are some tricky things involved with knitting an ear flap cap that you don't see in just normal beanie type caps, and we're going to cover that here in this tutorial. Among those things are the knitting the ear flaps and getting the cast on together with the ear flaps, the cable stitches, switching to double pointed needles when the circumference of the hat gets too small to use the circular needles. And then we have a crocheted trim around the edge with the twisted tassels. So we'll cover all that in this tutorial. If you'd like to follow along with this pattern, it's available for purchase and download over on verypink.com. So let's get started with the ear flaps. The pattern tells you to knit up these little ribbed squares, and since they're really simple and it's just straight back and forth knitting, we're not going to cover that in this video. Just follow the instructions and make 2 of them, and I have you put them on the double pointed needles. We're not going to be using the double pointed needles to start off with in the cap, in the brim of the cap, but if you knit these on the double pointed needles and leave them there, it's a way of reserving the stitches so that we can get them into the cast on edge. So let's take a look at the cast on. We're going to be using the circular needles for this, and you'll follow your pattern and use the long tail cast on to cast on the number of stitches it calls for. And that part's pretty simple. Now we're going to start incorporating the ear flaps. So the first one I want you to take, I had you leave one of the ear flaps with a really long tail on it. I want you to use this one first. So turn the ear flap so the right side is facing, and the right side happens to start with 2 knit stitches and end with 2 knit stitches. The wrong side shows purls on the 2 ends. So here we are on the right side. We are just going to use our working yarn. Oh, also you'll know you have it correct if the long tail is over here on the left-hand side of the double pointed needle. Just work across in ribbing on these stitches in the 2x2 ribbing that you've already established, remembering to yarn forward, to purl, and yarn back to knit. Actually, since you already knit the ear flaps, you're probably pretty good at that by now. Okay. Now we're done with this double pointed needle. We're not going to need it again for a while. Now I had you leave this really long tail because we need 2 strands of yarn to cast on more stitches. These stitches right here are actually the front of the cap, the part that goes over the forehead, and now we're going to be doing the back of the cap, kind of the nape of the neck of the cap. So cast on 18 stitches here. Whoops. And now we're going to incorporate the second ear flap. Again, with right side facing, starting with 2 knit stitches, and work across this in ribbing once again. And you'll notice when we make our way across this, we've got a crazy cast on row going with a lot of ends hanging and pieces hanging off. Okay, so there we are. We have 2 ear flaps and 2 cast on sections. Now we need to start joining this in the round. And to do that, we want to make sure that nothing is twisted. I'll make some sense of this and then show you what I've done. I'm going to have everything hanging on the inside here, all the ends and stuff. Now, my working yarn is here on this stitch. So this on the left-hand needle is going to be the first stitch that I knit. And actually I have you starting with purl 2 because that is what is going to maintain the rib pattern that we've already established on the ear flaps. So you want to place a marker here, and I don't have one handy, You'll place a marker there to denote the beginning of the round and start with purl 2. And I'm just going to double check again to make sure that nothing's twisted. My ear flaps are hanging in, all the knots are lined up on the inside, everything looks good. Okay, and that's how we're going to start the cast on row for the hat. You go ahead and follow your pattern, and I have you knitting the brim of the cap for 2 inches, and then after the brim of the cap we're going to start with the cable stitch, and we're going to switch colors when we do, if you choose to do a 2-color hat. When you switch from one color to the next, on the first row just do a plain knitting round, no purling. That will give you a clean color break between the brim of the cap and the crown of the cap where the cables are. So next up we will practice the cable stitch. As you can see on this hat, it's covered in cables. After the brim, we have cables all the way around the whole cap. I'm going to show you how to work the cable stitch. It's really simple. Even if you've never worked cables before, this is really pretty easy. So let's take a look at the hat first. You'll see here that the brim runs up in one color, we switch colors, and then that's when the cables start. And the cables actually, the cable twist follows the same pattern as the ribbing that we had going initially. Okay? And I have this sample here knit up to show you how to work the cables. I have the ribbing going. I didn't change colors, but then the purl stitches do all line up with this. And you'll follow your pattern to know the exact row count for these stitches, but I want to show you how to work the twist. Okay, here I am up to the cable now. I'm going to slide 3 stitches over onto this cable needle and hold it in the back of the work. I didn't mean to drop everything when I did that. Okay, so those stitches are going to hang out on that cable needle. I'm going to completely ignore them while I knit the next 3 stitches. Now I go back to the cable needle. Now I'm actually going to ignore this left needle, go back to the cable needle, and knit those 3 stitches off of the cable needle. Now I'm going to purl 2, and I have another cable twist. So again, I'll slide 3 stitches over onto the cable needle. You always slip as if to purl. Hold that in the back of the work and ignore that cable needle for 3 stitches. Knit 3 from the left needle. And knit 3 stitches off the cable needle. Okay. And then I'll finish up with purl 2, which is what we have between all of the cable twists. And that's what will give you the cable twist going all the way up the hat. Now you'll work a few of those cable twists, so you'll follow your pattern, and there's going to be a time when we start to decrease for the crown of the cap. When we do that, we're not going to have enough stitches to fit around on the circular needle anymore, so we're going to need to switch to knitting with the double pointed needles. And that's what we're going to cover in the next video. Okay, we're at a part of the cap now where we are going to start decreasing for the crown of the hat because it needs to be rounded on top. And once we do that, we're going to get to a number of stitches. We're going to be decreasing down to a number of stitches that no longer fits on our circular needle. So I'm going to show you how to switch to the double pointed needles, which is really pretty easy. Okay, I'm at the beginning of my round here, and the first round of the decreasing tells me to purl 2. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up a double pointed needle, hold it in my right hand. I'm going to ignore this right hand needle. I'm just going to start working right onto the double pointed needle. So I'm going to purl 2, knit 4, knit, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm going to knit 2. No, I'm going to knit 4 and then knit 2 together. Sorry, I've already done 1 decrease round on this. And purl 2 again. And I'll be doing this so that I have about a third of the needles. I'll knit about a third of the stitches onto one needle. Do the same thing with about a third of the stitches onto the next needle, and the same thing on the third needle. And then I will be completely finished with the circular needle. I can set that aside, and I will then begin to work from one double-pointed needle to the next. I always start each needle with an empty needle in my right hand and just work off the double-pointed needle like that. And the double-pointed needles will get us all the way down to the last few stitches of the cap. Then you'll break the yarn, cut the yarn, weave the, put that end on a tapestry needle and string it through the last few stitches and pull it tight like this, so you end up with just a tiny little hole there. And then you're pretty much done with the hat, and all we have left to do is the trim. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to add the crochet trim and tassels. Now we're finished with the knitting part of the hat, so you actually need a crochet hook for this next part. We're going to do some crocheting. And what we're going to do is the trim around the bottom of the cap, which will give us the tassels and the bottom of the ear flaps. And we've been working with double-stranded yarn throughout this cap, double-stranded worsted weight yarn. We've been holding the 2 strands together of the darker and the lighter color. For this next section, I want you to hold 1 strand each. 1 strand of each color together. It's a little bit different. Why don't you take a look on this camera? You can see that we're holding it together so we get kind of a twist of both colors all the way around the edge of the cap. It's much easier to see on this blue than it is on these brown colors. So hold those together and leave yourself like a 30-inch tail, because we need to leave some extra for the tassels on this. And then I've already done one side, so we're going to go ahead and do the trim on the other side. Starting with the right side facing you at the center bottom of one of the ear flaps, put your crochet hook in, and remember to leave yourself that long tail. Pull the strands through, and then if you know how to crochet, you want to chain one. If you don't know how to crochet, just grab the yarn and pull it through that one chain. Now, as we look at the edge stitches along the ear flap, edge stitches are always look like V's. We want to skip the first stitch, put our crochet hook under both legs of the V, pull it through, grab the yarn again and pull it through both loops. That's called a single crochet. Skip the next V, put your crochet hook under both legs of the V. On the next stitch, grab the yarn and pull it through. Then grab the yarn again and pull it through both loops. Skip the next one, under both V's, grab it and pull it through, grab it and pull it through both loops. Now we're only going to skip every other stitch on the bottom of the ear flap. That's to kind of give it a rounder shape. Now we're going to single crochet into 1, 2, 3, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, skip 1. So we're going to go into this next one here, turning up around the corner. Both legs of the V, grab it, pull it through 1, grab it, pull it through 2. We go into this next one, whoops. And this third one. Then we skip the next one and go into this one. And the following. And the third, then we skip one again. Anyway, that's what you're going to do all the way around half the cap. You'll see I have a long tail here. I started here, went all the way around and finished here, and now we're doing the other side. So I want to show you how to work the tassel part of it now. Once you've finished your single crochet all the way around, you're finished with the crochet hook, and this is, we're just going to use our hands for this part. We have 2 strands from one side of the ear flap, or one side of the trim that we did, and 2 strands from the other. And we're going to twist them together. You want to pay attention to the direction that you twist them together. I twist them, these two strands together in a clockwise way. That's how I remember what I'm doing. So you twist these two together clockwise and get it wound pretty tightly. I know that these two colors aren't different enough to really see the twist. Let me go ahead and pull the blue in here. You see the twist here in the blue and the white is much easier to see. And that's what we're doing. Twist these together in clockwise, grab the other two from the same ear flap and twist them together in a clockwise way. And you want to twist those two together so that the twists are about evenly tight. Now, I've twisted down to the last couple of inches of these strands. I'm holding them together. I was twisting clockwise, and now I'm going to twist these two together counterclockwise, which is going to keep them from unraveling. The two twists balance each other out. Okay? And you can see here that it's, it's twisting up on itself. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot in the bottom of this, and it'll even itself out a little bit, but you can see the twist is holding, and it's twisted together, and it looks really cool. Now, usually what I will do is I'll actually try on the cap to see how long I want to make these strands, and then tie another knot, wherever that is, and then cut this to leave a nice end. On this blue cap, it looks like I've left these about 1 foot long, and then about 1 inch of tassel at the bottom of that. You can leave these however long you like. But then you do the same thing over on the other side with the strands that you have hanging. Twist the two colors of strands together in one way and the other one, and then you twist all that together in the opposite way, and it will keep it from unraveling. And that's all written out in your pattern as well. Anyway, that's everything. That's all the steps to make the Earflap snowboarding cap.